Hello and welcome. I am Shivani and I'm honored to bring our very next interview session with Professor A.B. Pandit Sir, Vice-Chancellor of ICT. So today we'll be hearing his thought on the book Divine Scientist, Biography of Padma Vibhushan Professor M. Sharma Sir. So my first question to him is, when you first held the book Divine Scientist, what was the very first thought that crossed your mind about Professor Sharma Sir's extraordinary journey?
Thank you. Namaskar. Though I had listened and read a few of Professor Sharma's thoughts in different formats, also written so called his own writings a bit. But when I saw the complete book, Divine Scientist, held in my hand, the first thought came is how one person can do so many things in his lifetime. And that too sticking to the principles which he never deviated from, the compromises which he never made, and stuck to the principles and still rose and is still appreciated and respected throughout the country. Getting this particular book in a hand in its printed form was really like a labor of love being seen in my hand, which I wanted to do for a very, very long time, but could not do for some reason or other.
Okay. So, sir, my second question is, which story or a chapter in the book made you think, yes, this is exactly the Professor Sharma sir's we all knew?
The chapter, I think, in terms of title, is Mrudu yet Pankankhar,
Huh.
which is essentially tough yet soft.
Soft.
That precisely expressed Professor Sharma in terms of his philosophy of working and his internal self, which always looked into the well being of the person to whom or with whom he was conversing. Whether it is his students, whether it is his family members, discipline was indeed a discipline, but discipline, of course, with the soft touch was always has been his approach. I have known Professor Sharma since 1980,
Mm.
so it is almost 45 years now.
Oh.
And from seeing as a person where every student was scared of, even to walk past his room because people were afraid that anytime he may get out of the room, and if we happen to be there, don't know how he will react. But usually, this is only the first impression. Each way, in a way, it was good because he never allowed the crowd to be gathered because of this impression, which worked out in his favor.
Mm.
But whenever you go and approached him and ask him a genuine query question, there was no better person and no effusive person in terms of solving your query without any expectation, without any benefit for him. And he would advise you always which is to the best of your benefit. And his thinking is so quick that he will evaluate all the possible pros and cons and offer you a suggestion which will be a long term solution and never a temporary solution.
Okay. So, sir, what part of Professor Sharma sir's leadership journey in the book inspires you the most?
The leadership journey essentially is don't be afraid of thinking big.
Hmm.
And second, while thinking big, how this big problem can be broken down into smaller solvable problems. And the way I would explain, don't forget you are an engineer. Engineering is an approximate science. So let the good not be the enemy of the best. because ultimately you have to find solutions. And I always recite Professor Sharma's statement is no process is ever mature. It keeps on improving. It's keep on increasing its efficiencies, and that has been true in all the journey which I have experienced. And Professor Sharma will insist about the correctness of this statement over the past his journey of maybe over 60-65 years now as a scientist.
Okay, sir. So, if a student walks up to you and say, "Why should I read Divine Scientist?" What will be your answer?
I think there are multiple answers to this particular question. There's not one answer. One, the first is how a person coming from a humble background with a tenacity and a commitment and an integrity can continue to thrive without compromising any of the idols, his ideals, and rise to the occasion and get recognized in spite of many people might have been troubled, many people might have not had um, been able to use things which would have been of tremendous benefit to them. But Professor Sharma's extremely strong and committed stand, which he never gave up once he was convinced about it. The issue with Professor Sharma's entire dealing has always been think of a bigger picture, try to solve that bigger picture, and he knows that the bigger picture cannot be solved in yours and mine lifetime. So it is better to break this bigger picture in the form of small solvable problems which you can address during either your master's program of 2 years or your PhD program of 4 years or your academic journey which may continue forever.
Okay, sir. So, and my final question, when can we expect your biography?
I'm not that big at all. I'm not that big at all. And I think if people do benefit from the biography, I say I have been standing on the giant shoulders of the giants, as the phrase goes. There have been really giants leading ICT, and I'm yet to climb many steps. I'm just on the first step of being a vice chancellor. If I'm able to do something substantial for the institute, then I would say that yes, it is worthwhile for me to write down my memoirs and somebody will read it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for sharing your views. But before I conclude, I would like to have a quick rapid fire round with you.
Sure.
So I'll be asking you a few questions and you have to in one line or just one sentence. So my first question is one word that describe best Professor M. Sharma, sir.
The title of the book, Divine Scientist.
Scientist, nice. If you could give Divine Scientist to one person today, who would it be?
I would give it to some person from rural India who really wants to excel in life and doesn't know
Hmm.
how to go about doing it.
Okay. So how would you love to read Divine Scientist as printed book or a e-book?
I have always loved reading printed books, so I would love printed book. I read the Marathi version completely. I read the English version completely. I also read the second edition completely. So now I'm reading the Hindi version.
Oh. In one line, why is Divine Scientist more than just a biography?
It is not just a biography of a person.
Hmm.
It is a biography of a person who has led an exemplary life. And if you really want to emulate and get to the position which Professor Sharma has reached, what efforts which you have to take, how you maintain your integrity, and how you keep on practicing your principles without compromise is what this book teaches you. So rather than being a scientist and the scientific methods, which of course we will not learn much because there is not much scientific contents which are there in the book. It tells you a way of a life of an academics and a researcher and a committed educationist.
Okay, sir. So thank you, sir, for your valuable time and thank you for being a part of this
My
conversation.
pleasure.
Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Thank you.